But that's you're arguing for.
But I mean, states can be evil, feds can be evil.
Right, I agree. But at least
it's supposed to be a balance between the feds and the states. It's getting out of control.
It's supposed to be our local, state, and federal government against corporations and foreign actors against us on one level, and the protection of an actual social structure where we can get where we need to be, street lights and the like on the way.
And vaccines. Where do you stand on vaccines?
I don't take them. I think
that's not very trendy.
Well, you seem to have this grouping of Democrats and liberals like we're all the same.
Same here with me. It's a joke.
I don't care about your guns, and I don't take the vaccines, and I don't drink bottled water as best I can. And
let me stop you for just a minute, because I want to spend some time with you guys, and you're all at the Cap City Comic Club tonight and the next 2 nights here in Austin, Texas. It's very evil. They have Chinese-made carpet there. Now continuing, it's a joke, folks. I like Cap City Comedy Club.
You
know, I'm the only guy out there known who puts my films out free on the internet. Immediately. I trailblazed that.
That's not true. There's a site called Xtube.
No.
Okay, but I've been doing this for 16 years, though.
I know.
And that's why I was successful. But this wasn't a plan of mine to be. I wanted to be successful in the message, and this is something.
Glenn Beck, man, there's money to be made in freaking people out, whether you're right or not. I mean, ultimately,
like Obama saying, you better raise the debt ceiling or no Social Security checks.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely. But
okay, enough of all that. I want to get into real material. Gentlemen, first, Richard Hunter, your view on 9/11. I mean, if the government was involved or let it happen, the point is these people need to be removed.
All right.
And both parties are involved. And the former head of Homeland Security admitted they issued terror alerts for political purposes. Does that concern you?
Yes. There are elements of 9/11, Building 7, et cetera. I look at it like the Kennedy assassination. I don't have a definitive theory that I'm comfortable with to tell you who I think was exactly behind the Kennedy assassination, but I will tell you without a doubt that it was no lone gunman. So and that's, 40-something years removed from that. We're even closer in time to 9/11, so I don't think it's even possible to say exactly what was behind it, but I think it's absolutely right to question and look at it from every angle.
I think the value of the 9/11 truth movement would be that it's all about the most truthful information that comes out. Once you start drawing conclusions of your own based on any dog you might have in the race, ultimately you help the sort of the governmental architecture version of things by either being viewed as for or against it, whereas you can just go, look, there is no way Building 7 burned down. Nobody looks at it and thinks that for a second. So I want to know exactly what happened. And until I know exactly what happened, I'm not going to rest. And I'm not going to draw any conclusions, let you bait me into, it was, George Bush having breakfast with the bin Ladens on the morning of the thing, which.
Well, that's London Guardian.
Right.
And when all air traffic was shut down, 5 different flights flying the bin Ladens out of the country.
Totally.
And they got caught lying about it.
Right. No.
Let's ignore all that.
No.
But it's secondary. Blowing my voice out here.
Is the problem, though, that it's so big that's how they keep us from compartmentalizing one mystery at a time? I mean, maybe that's the way to attack it, is to look at nothing but Building 7 until we can figure something out.
Because if something's wrong with that, the whole thing's shot.
Yeah, whenever you're trying to prosecute a criminal, if you try to go after that criminal before you have evidence that's offered in court, you go, we'll find the evidence as we go along, but I know that guy's guilty. He'll always walk. And that's the problem. And I think
no, but Building 7 is the bloody axe in the back of the trunk that matches the blood of the dead woman they found.
That's true.
And Building 7 is the bloody axe.
That's true.
So it's enough to start the investigation.
Right. I believe it's absolutely. But ultimately, it's the start of it. But the truth movement, if it has any value, is the dogged search for the actual video of what hit the Pentagon, the towers themselves, any footage that was done before, other than what was released, as it were. You need as much of it as possible so that it overwhelms the psychological effect of people not being able to believe the two.
Sure, Hal, let me ask you this question. And this is a serious question. I want to get in the fight again, even though it was fun. My voice can't handle it now.
I know. That's how I get you.
Yeah. Well,
ever long.
If you go back, though, I understand counterbalancing 3 branches of government counterbalancing corporations, counterbalancing robber barons. I get all that. That's actually constitutional. What I'm saying is, who deals with the federal government when it goes bad and corporations put all their operatives in every position via revolving door when the government at the highest levels is covering up 9/11, which we know they're doing? Then who deals with the federal government?
Well, ultimately, if in a democracy, theoretically, the voters would. The problem is
electronic voting machines.
Right. Yeah. Well,
and it's confirmed in Ohio.
No question. Electronic voting machines, no paper trail. is a direct affront to a democracy. There's no question about that. We're completely on the same page in that area. But ultimately, regardless of those elements, the voters actually have the opportunity to do that. That's our only service point. That's, you know, our only way into it. The problem is, from a corporate point of view, trying to control 500 Congress critters, you know, is very expensive and a pain in the butt, and it requires a lot of local maneuver. Controlling 100 senators, even more expensive because they hold giant districts, and I'm competing with other corporate interests and that thing. But the Supreme Court is a way better use of my money as a corporate controller. If I get people in there who are corporatists, running the Scalias and the Roberts of the world, the Clarence Thomas, who will follow anything behind there.
And that's why the president's so key, because with the presidency, you get the court.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's what you're shooting for. I mean, you got to look at, you know, Mitt Romney, for example, who's arguably the front runner for the Republican side going this way. Okay.
You should love him. He wrote Obamacare.
No, believe me, I'm for
he is a colossal flip-flopper.
Yeah.
He's an amazing body of flip-flopper.
What about Rick Perry?
Right.
Al Gore's former chief of staff in Texas, forced inoculations, NAFTA superhighway power grabs.
Right.
I mean, this guy is about as conservative.
Well, he's the guy who he's like the guy in the club who's going, this place stinks. I hate this dump. This is ridiculous. I'm leaving. I want to see your manager. This is pathetic. This is terrible service, sir. Let me see these. Are you the manager? Are you guys hiring? Because that's really what he's doing. He's arguing for secession, and then now he wants to run for president. I hate this United States part so much that I want to run for the whole of it. It's absurd. But the point is, Mitt Romney's going to be the guy, arguably, because they're pushing him to the front. Evangelicals won't vote for him because he's Mormon. They'll pair him with an evangelical to try and balance that vote out. It'll never happen.
No, they're bringing Perry in.
But, yeah, but he won't fare any better.
You think because it's, you know, we've got to get another Texan in because it's already been 3 years since we had one.
Right, and he did so well.
But the angle here is Obama, people thought he would fix everything so quickly.
I didn't think he'd fix it.
I think people are going to run back over to, let me tell you, the big wig Republicans.
They did it.
And I said this 2 years ago, Rick Perry.
They did it in 2010. The run back.
He has knelt before Bilderberg.
That I don't doubt. But the 2010 vote was them running back to the other side, and you've got Boehner and Cantor in charge of things. And these guys are corporatists of the highest order. Mitt Romney is the guy who, old school corporatist, rolls in, buys up a company, a local company, run by a local CEO, buys it up.
Hey, since we got you guys in here,
sends it overseas.
And the first 30 minutes was nothing but screaming and yelling, you guys want to do 20 minutes of overdrive so we can take phone calls?
I love it.
And we're going to get some headphones on you.
Okay.
And we're going to send subliminal messages in to program your brain.
Is that how it works?
Probably.
Just joking. Since you're starting,
old technology.
Since you're starting more, that's right. That's right. Drink Coca-Cola. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Okay, folks, we're going to go about 20 minutes into overdrive and open the phones up. And I know a lot of these callers are already holding on other issues, but I'm sure these guys can comment and tell us how good it is, especially Hal, that they've got TV ads running that the white guy's going to get you. I was against the ads running that the Muslims are going to get you, but you know, or tattle on your neighbor. But I'm joking. We'll get your take on all that. I know you know 9/11's a fraud. Now, Mark, Mike, Dangerous, Tim, everybody, we're going to get to you. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. People always ask why I have a deep voice, because I never took voice lessons. When I scream at people, I actually really scream, and the voice just gets deeper over the years until someday I'll sound like a giant toad. It just goes bleh. But, again, the websites are Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. Our guest sites are HalSparks.com and RichardHunterShow.com. And I want Richard to get a chance to pop in and talk here some. Richard, Hal says he's seen Endgame.
Yeah.
Blueprint for Global Enslavement. I brought that up, and I said, look, you can have debates about whether government's good or not or how big it should be. I've done a study of these people, and the dominant Western powers, they made a deal with China on this, and they have a lot of excuses of why it's good. There is a giant covert world population reduction program going on. Do you guys think, A, that that's going on, or I'm lying, or B, is it a good idea?
Well, where do you start?
Yeah, is it going on? You know, I don't know. I mean, I think one thing that I think is so important about these conversations is that nothing is off the table. I don't hear anything just on premise and go, oh, you're crazy. Right. Don't tell me that our government. One need only look as far as the Tuskegee experiments to know that the U.S. federal government is capable of doing something very bad.
Specifically
and that's
people within
that's an understatement.
the US
Absolutely.
government.
So I don't think there's any. I think it's key to question. I guess my issue with it all is with sort of an all or nothing approach. You know, drown federal government in a bathtub or blow it up so big that it's in control of everything. Both of those perspectives.
The answer is informed, involved people, and as Thomas Jefferson said, educate the general public about facts and science and information, and tyranny will vanish like phantoms at dawn.
But
and that's why they undercut the Department of Education. That's why you don't want the Department. Why you don't want
the U.S. education was a lot better before we had that. I've had the former head of policy, Charlotte Iserby, on. She was there in the 80s, and they had a program in the Department of Education to dumb people down.
But there's got to be.
But that's the 80s mentality of the Ronald Reagans of the world. They hate big government organizations, so you run the government organization you don't like into the ground.
No. It was science. She released the documents. This was going on decades before her too.
Yeah, but
this was to dumb people down by design.
That's the existence of the Department of Education is the negative instead of using it properly.
So you think a centralized educating system is a good idea and not a diverse one?
I think a standard of intelligence in
Thomas Jefferson was trained at home.
But here's
Abraham Lincoln was trained at home.
Right.
Socrates and Alexander the Great were trained at home.
And what he came up with eventually was the common good, that we should actually provide for the education and welfare of the country. That's what he came to, is that I was lucky. I had people at home that would teach me, but you might not, and you're getting half the information and all this theocratic nonsense, and I'm having to deal with you in open business.
Yeah, like environmental brainwashing, telling 5-year-olds about different types of sex. They shouldn't even be talking about that. It should be reading, writing, and arithmetic.
But doesn't there have to be
science?
But they inject whatever they can for social training and social engineering in school instead of reading, writing, and arithmetic.
But doesn't there have to be a hybrid of that? Because if there's not, that's how things like Jim Crow laws are allowed to exist. I mean, if you completely deregulate and you leave people up to their own state-to-state devices, which in some instances I'm in favor of, I'm just saying if you totally pull the federal government out of it, then that is how you get black people not being allowed to eat at a diner.
Right. Yeah. And if you have a bunch of kids who aren't, their only experience of...
Hold on, we'll talk more about that. We got to go to break. Back in 60 seconds, going into overdrive. Main transmission's over. We are now into hour number 4 today. We're going to do 20 minutes of overdrive, and we'll go into retransmission with our big top story that's gone viral all over the internet. This will get read by 5 million people today. DHS video characterizes white Americans as most likely terrorists. You got to see it to believe it. We have a TV host, comedian, he's on it all, Talk Soup, you name it, with us, Hal Sparks. We've also got Richard Hunter with us for this short segment and the next long segment. And we're going to your phone calls right now. Mike in New York, you are on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex, thanks for taking my call, man.
Welcome. So do you have any questions or comments for our guest, or what's your statement?
Yeah, I'd like to talk briefly about the 10th anniversary of 9/11 coming up.
Sure, go ahead.
A couple buddies and I are just trying to raise some awareness. We put together a video, a website, put some flyers out there in conjunction with We Are Change. Just trying to get as many people out to Ground Zero on the 11th as possible. I truly think this is the big one, 10th anniversary.
Yeah, so the government can't just use the deaths again to sell us, turning America into a giant prison. Mike, I appreciate your call. You guys got any comments on how, regardless of what happened with 9/11, how it's been used to transform our society?
I think it's always easy to use even genuine crimes, and I don't think this was what it was presented as. But like, let's say there's really is a serial killer on the loose. It's great opportunity to act on that fact and make everybody afraid to live and interact. So you destroy social structures that might be an affront to large. And I think it's local constabularies and corporatists. You can cut those apart by making people more afraid to interact. And I think 9/11 needs something along the lines of what Anonymous is doing. Like when I was in England, there was a great moment where they have this anti-Scientology kind of move over there and these guys showed up at the Scientology Center in London wearing the V for Vendetta masks, and an army of them showed up. It was amazing to watch. And the news had to cover it just because it was entertaining. You know what I mean? There was an element of they learned a valuable lesson about branding and marketing the sigil magic that is large corporations.
Well, it was something different. It's like
instead of just a bunch of billboards.
It was like the folks that danced at the Jefferson Memorial and got arrested. That got giant attention because it was novel. Or not protesting outside the Texas Capitol, storming into it got national attention.
Exactly. And I think there's a value to something similar like that at the 9/11 site that is complete silence. I mean, they had those zombie fallouts where people would make a point about radioactivity and those things. People would dress up as zombies and fall around a nuclear reactor. That gets on the news, and it draws